Alright, I'm going to be changing the brake pads on my 2001 Dodge Ram. As you can tell, brake pads are bad. Metal on metal, you never want that, so when it starts squeaking, that's when you need to change these things. Mine started grinding. Luckily, it didn't do a lot of damage, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to replace those. Alright, here's the tools I use for this job. You want a ratchet with a T45 star on it, pretty good size flathead screwdriver, and then a C-clamp. And that's pretty much all I use for this job. Now to open up the calipers, what I do is there's two holes on the top. Take this flathead screwdriver, kind of stick it in towards you, and then pull back real easy, steady pressure, and those calipers will go ahead and open up, and that makes it a whole lot easier to pull this caliper unit off these brake pads. And once you got that done, there will be a star pattern bolt at the top of the caliper and then one down at the bottom, and you will take those two out, and then this caliper will push up and lift out. Now you'll see that these bolts that I'm talking about have little rubber boots on them. There's a little groove in the bolt head. You just push those rubber boots off the head, and then you can pull them out. Make sure when you go to pull this caliper off that you've got a stand or something underneath it that you can set it on, because you're still going to have these hoses hooked up, and you can't let it fall to the ground because you will damage these hoses. So make sure you have something set up here. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to take these calipers and we're going to put a C-clamp on them like this, and then I'm going to use this C-clamp to smash these calipers back down to where they need to be, because those new brake pads are a lot thicker and it's going to be easier to put on if you go ahead and smash those back down. Alright, I've got these pushed back in where I want them, and now the next step will be to take these old brake pads off, and you'll see how they come off here, and they just pop right off. The new ones will go in the same way. One thing you'll have to watch is sometimes these things work themselves down a little bit, so make sure they're snug up against there, because otherwise if they get loose, they'll see how that one's kind of loose, they'll pop up there and it'll be hard to get that brake pad on. Here's your trick as well. See how this rotor moves? Take your lug nut and put it right there, keep that rotor snug, and that'll make it easier to get that caliper back on. Alright, got the new brake pads back on. Now I'm just going to take this caliper, put it back here. It'll go on the same way it came off. Run those bolts back through the back, and you'll want to make sure that you put the rubber boot back on those bolts. One other thing to mention, this right here is where the bolts go in. You're going to want to compress that back down to make it easier to get that piece back up here. Okay, bottom end first, then top, then put your bolts in. Make sure you put these boots back on these bolts once you get them tightened up. Now it's just put the wheel back on and be ready to go. Okay, once you get done out there, you come back in your truck, start it up, press your pedal all the way to the floor, let it out, let it return all the way to full, press again, and keep doing that until the pedal has quite a bit of resistance and it feels normal. And then when you start driving, make sure that you just pull out a few feet, make sure you have brakes and all that. And that should have it.